G'day, welcome back to Dad versus Son, and we're going on with, again, Great War Commander from Hexasim, and we're moving on to scenario 2. So this is fixed bayonets. Apologies for mispronouncing any of the French, German, or Belgian names, places, towns, and all the rest of it. So, Onhay, Belgium, 23 August 1914. In a late reaction to the German invasion of Belgium, French commander Joseph Joffre sent 4th and 5th Armies north to the Belgian frontier. When German Third Army forces under Max von Hausen began to turn their east flank at the Meuse River, Joffre allowed 5 Army Commander Charles Lanzerac to initiate a withdrawal, but not before a local commander, Charles Mangin, took action. They called him the Butcher. The aggressive Mangin led his brigade toward Onhay, a vital crossroads town on the Meuse bridgehead. With bayonets fixed, his soldiers drove the Saxons from the town and temporarily interrupted the crossing area off to the east. Mangin, a colonial wars veteran, had the men follow his motto: concentrate all at one point, but then right up to the limit. Onhay was a rare bright spot in the midst of a dismal French retreat. Okay, so we start at time 2 with sudden death at 10. The Germans start with 6 VP. Germans are defending, 2 orders, 3 discards. The French are attacking, 3 orders, 1 discard, and have the initiative. Objective T is open, which is 2 VP for each objective, and the French have Y as an open objective, which is a +1 to exit points. Both sides then have a secret objective, which again I have not looked at, for fog of war. The Germans hold all 5 of the objectives at the moment. The French hold none. The Germans set up first 8 hexes deep, and then the French set up 1 hex deep, but also allowed to place people into A2, 3, and 4. The Germans are not allowed into hex rows A or B to start with. Okay, after we've set up, what we have troop-wise is the Germans have Hauptmann Waldau back. They don't have Lieutenant Rommel. He's recuperating after the last battle, sitting back, sipping champagne, and probably looking fondly at his Iron Cross and his wound medal. So instead we have Lieutenant Lochow. The Germans have 7 Fusilier platoons, 1 MG08, 1 7.58 centimetre mortar, and 3 foxholes, with a team and another MG08 as a reinforcement at time 5. I've set up the Germans like this. So what we have is basically 2 company groups, a very spread out company group and a relatively consolidated company group. Lieutenant Lochow has a Fusilier platoon in foxholes here, and he can cover this sort of area here, give a bit of support over here and so forth. I've put the mortar here with the Fusiliers here as well, so they can bring fire out this way, and then I have this Fusilier in the building here at objective 4, I believe it is. Yeah. To help cover objective 4 and objective 3. I've spread them out because they will still remain in cohesion. This one because he's on an objective, this one because he has a working weapon, and this one because he's with the leader. The idea being is that they hold this area. Any artillery that the French call in can never take out more, or can never target more than 2 lots of them. So it's a spread out, but I think a worthwhile sort of setup. The Hauptmann, as the other 4 Fusiliers over here, I've got 1 forward in these buildings, basically keeping an eye on objective 2. I've got the Hupman, another Fusilier, and the MG08 here in foxholes. And then I've got these two in the Quarry as basically reserves. So again, all of these are within the command radius of the Hupman. If we lose the Hupman, this guy has a weapon, so he will remain in cohesion. This guy's on an objective, and he will remain in cohesion as well. So the only two that will fall off and become suppressed would be this guy and this guy at the moment. So again, I've tried to set them up so they have interlocking zones of fire and also support each other whilst remaining in cohesion as much as possible. The French, on the other hand, have three leaders. They have Captain Fleury, who is back, and I've got him up here. We have Lieutenant Grenier, who I've placed over here, and Lieutenant Labas is back with us as well over here. They have 12 line platoons, one specialist, one machine gun, a Saint-Étienne, and they also have artillery in a 75mm telephone. So I've set them up again in 3 company groups. So Lieutenant Grenier, as I said, over here, and he has 4 line platoons, the specialist and the machine gun. They basically are to move down into the tree line here so they can put suppressing fire down this way. By the same token, he has enough platoons here that if need be, they can be fed back up and around into this area here to support Captain Fleury with his 5 line platoons, who are our main assault force, coming down through the town to take objective 5, 2, and do whatever damage they can do. Lieutenant Labas and his 3 platoons over here are basically an annoyance, and there to help keep a little bit of concentration this way as well. Their role is basically as a support element to move into the marsh and then break out of there down through to objective 3 and either off the board to pick up victory points that way, or to take there and then help to swing around and break and roll up the German right flank through objective 4 and then up this way. Will it work? I don't know, but we'll see how it goes. Surrender values are 7 for the Germans and 11 for the French. So yeah, it's could go either way. I've played this a couple of times. I've screwed it up both times. That's why I'm doing it again. In the first time I played it, we got a lot of great artillery down here, and we basically wiped everything out. And the French were coming towards a resounding victory. But then, because of the colours of the cards being very much the same between the Germans and French, I started grabbing cards from the wrong side for the wrong side and all the rest of it, and I gave it up. The second time I played through, the Germans just basically were great on the board. They had no losses whatsoever, and they virtually wiped out the French. They took out all the French centre to start with. They took out all the support troops that I'd sent in. I got Lieutenant Labas off the board, but then I think the Germans were up to about, it was something stupid like 29 victory points at that stage or something. So, and then again, I started screwing up. So I've reset to start again. So I know that this setup works for the French, and I know this setup works for the Germans. So it could go spectacularly one way for each side, or we could end up with a great mishmash where it turns into a relatively equal attritional sort of battle. So it really comes down to the card draws and how stupid I am with the orders that I give. Now, one of the things I did pick up from the first scenario was with offensives. I had some questions about how sometimes all I'd moved is a leader and one platoon sort of thing. But the orders do state that it must be a leader and there must be at least 2 formations, and the leader is a formation along with the platoon, so that was fair enough. But the big thing I did pick up is that at the end of an offensive or during the offensive at any stage, you can conduct a fire action effectively. And I think there's a couple of times where I might have actually done a couple of fire actions during that offensive rather than just having the one. So that's something I'll need to watch out about as well. But you've heard me waffle on enough. So the rest of the special rules are, with Objective Y was removed to put up with the French. Objective Z is removed totally. And then we have the initial French barrage. So after both sides are set up, we draw 2 French random hexes, and then we put rubble into the buildings nearest to those hexes, suppress any troops that are in there. And if any foxholes are in those buildings, then redraw. I haven't placed any foxholes into buildings. Again, the reasoning being is that if a foxhole is hit, then it's going to become shell holes. Whereas if a building is hit, it's originally going to become rubble and still give plenty of cover. So that's the way I've gone. So first French one is at L4. L4 is here, and the closest building hex to that is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I6 becomes rubble. And then the second is at B10, which is down here. And the closest building to B10 is going to be this one here, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it could be either of these. So it's French attacking, so I'm going to call it as this one. E7 is gone in there. It is now rubble rather than a building, and that that German Fusilier has been suppressed. And we reshuffle the French deck up. The next special rule is bayonet work. The German victory point value of German formations eliminated in melee is doubled if at the conclusion of the melee there are still French units in the melee hex. So that will be nice if we can get in there and melee and knock them out. The fountain at G4 up here on Objective 5 does not exist. This is a 0 hindrance, 0 cover hex, so this is just an open terrain hex. It's not a road, or else it'd be a -1 cover. So this is just open terrain here. And the last one is hold the village. The German player may not gain exit VPs for anything other than a runner. If anybody else exits off the board, then they're simply eliminated. So that's that. What tends to slow this one down is working out lines of sight, because we have so many small so many small buildings basically. And the other thing I tend to forget at times is the 2 hindrance for rubble hexes. So 4 cards for the Germans for defense, 6 cards for the French for attack. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then strategy cards. And the Germans have got Drachen, used as an artillery request, which they can't do. They don't have any artillery. Or choose one of the following: discard the enemy's held strategy card, and secretly look at the next one to draw by each player, or remove all the enemy reminder cards on display, or draw 2 strategy cards, keep 1 and return. Otherwise, they can use it for a +1 for a single die roll. And the French have picked up Undershoot, which is displace your opponent's map spotting round. But again, there is no German artillery. So again, a +1 to their thing. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to look at is a quick gecko at the German cards. done. And that was just to have a quick look to see if they have a defender-only action on there, and they do not. So the French are up, and they have drawn a runner, a fire, an artillery request, a fire, a recover, and another fire. Absolutely nothing to move with. Wow. So fire-wise at the moment, in all honesty, none of these guys have line of sight due to the trees. None of these guys have line of sight to anything due to buildings and so forth. And if they do, they don't have range, and the same over here. So we cannot fire whatsoever. We don't need to recover. So that leaves us with an artillery request and a runner. So we'll bring our runner on as our first order, and our little French runner, agent de liaison, will go up here with our senior leader, which is the captain. The only other thing we can do then is an artillery request, and we will do that. And again, we can only call in artillery from our forward observer here at H1, who is at elevation 2, so he can see everything on the board, or from the captain, who can't see anything at the moment. So where do we want to call in the artillery? And our most dangerous weapon effectively is this MG08. So I'm going to try and call the artillery in on there. So this is at H1 here, so it's a range of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we get 4 3s are 12, which is great. We don't do the event for a spotting round. And then we know the artillery is going to hit there, and it's going to go to 5 and 4. So it goes direction 5 first, which is this way, and then it goes direction 4, which is here, and it will hit all of these hexes. Okay, so the first thing we do is we draw for a single card for wherever there are no troops. So everything except for objective 1 here. We have 8 firepower, so if we get a 10 or more, then we'll end up with shell holes in all of these empty hexes. And we get a 4, which is nothing. French event is en avant. You may rally a friendly unit or increase your surrender level by 1. We've got nothing to rally, so we'll go up to 12 for the surrender level. And then we do a draw for where this fusilier is here in objective 1. And we have 8. Plus 8 is 16. And we have a French event, which is raid prisoners. Eliminate 1 enemy unit out of cohesion adjacent to a friendly unbroken unit. None of them are out of cohesion. None of them are broken, anything else, so it doesn't really matter. So we're hitting in here for 16. This guy is here for 8, plus 1 cover for being in the quarry. So he's there for 9. Do the Germans have anything to help with that if they wanted to? And the answer is no. So he's there for 9, plus 7 is 16, and therefore he is suppressed. So all in all, not real flash, but better than nothing. So again, the French are now left with 3 fires and 1 recover, which they can't use, so they'll get 2 new cards. And we're over to the Germans, who have an offensive, and they don't really want to use that. A command confusion with nothing they can use on that. A recover and a move. Okay, so we could recover these 2 troops, but I think the best bet at the moment is I want to keep the recover at the moment, and this move has a crossfire on it. So it's a +2 when firing at moving targets. I'm going to get rid of the command confusion and the offensive. I'm just tossing up whether to get rid of this crossfire action as well. and give me 3 new cards, because I can do that. Because what I really need is fires and that sort of stuff. And I think that might be the best bet. So I'm going to actually discard all 3 of these cards. And the Germans will get 3 new cards. They do have a defender only one on one of them. So I'll just leave that one up so I can see what's on it. Okay, and we're back to the French, who have a recover, 3 fires, an artillery request, and an offensive. Okay. So I think, again, what we need to do first is call in the artillery. And I want to bring it in again, the same place. That was on the wrong guy. That was on him, sorry. So again, worth for 9 down to here, I believe it was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Righto. And we get 6 sixes at 36. So yes, it is going to land there. We do our reshuffle of the French cards. And of course they want to get stuck this time. Okay, so we do our reshuffle. French cards are back in. So we go to time 3. The Germans pick up 1 VP. We have no gas. We have no smoke to remove at all. We have no dig-ins for the French. We have a dig-in for the Germans. Okay. Now, I don't believe we can put a dig-in here because we've already got something there. Just going to pause it to check and have a look. Okay, back again. So all it says is it cannot go into water or where there's another fortification. And rubble is not a fortification. So we're going to remove that. We're going to use our dig in for the Germans, and they will go back. Well, they've put some foxholes here. So it's good. Righto, so this has landed here. And now we need to see where it spreads to. And it goes 5, 2. So it goes direction 5 first, which is this way. Then it goes direction 2, which is right back there. So again, first things first is we do all these empty hexes. Again, we're at firepower 8. Plus 2 is 10, so nothing happens in these empty hexes. And then we do a draw for the 1 draw for the 2 occupied hexes. So again, we are at 8 plus 8 is 16. So again, we don't destroy anything in there, fortification wise or anything else, or place any shell holes. So we'll do this guy first, 16. So he's in there for 7. Plus 1 is 8. And they have nothing to help with that. So we have 8 and 3 is 11. So not going to help at all. And this guy is broken in objective 1. And then 16 into here. The MG08 is in here for 8, 10, 13. Plus 8, 21. So he's fine. And we have a German sniper hitting at I3. And I3 is here and does not hit anyone. And then Hauptmann Waldo, again, is in here for 11. Plus 4 is 15, which means he'd be hit. So I'm going to use the plus 1 here. No, I'm not. I'm not going to use the plus 1, or am I? Hang on, hang on, hang on. Yes, I am. I'm going to use the plus 1 so that he is only suppressed. So the Hauptmann is suppressed, but he will still maintain cohesion with everybody else and that. So that's the first German order, and we have now 3 fires: offensive and recover. So we've got a choice here. There's not much sense in using the offensive here. I could get these guys down into the marsh. They can't bring any fire in, so it doesn't help. I could use the offensive here with the Hauptmann to get his people forward. They may be able to bring fire down onto this guy. Or I can use the offensive here with Lieutenant Grenier, get his people down into here, and then they can bring fire and our heaviest fire down into here. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to do the offensive as our second order. We'll move the lieutenant and his troops here, down to here. The Germans do not have a fire order. This guy is then going to go 2, 4 to here. This guy will go 2, 4 to here. And this guy is going to go 2, 4 to here. Again, so I can start to split these off if I want back around into the town to support our assault element. So now we can bring fire from these 3 hexes down into here. So that will give us 7 plus 2 is 9, 10, 11, 12, because we have a range of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all in there. So we have 12 firepower. Do we have anything to add to that? And we do have this Elan, which I'm going to use. And that's going to give us 2 more, taking it to 14. Plus 10, 24 today. I'm happy with that. So hopefully we can get something out of this. So we're firing into here for 24. The Germans have nothing to help with that, and I'm just backing up 1. Let's take this fire back here. We've done the offensive. What the Germans are going to do is actually put in their hidden wire. Put in a hex where our formation just moved or advanced, and we're going to actually put wire here. Now they cannot form a fire group and they cannot use the machine gun. So if they want to fire now, then all they can do is fire with this guy or this guy. And that's it. So they're simply going to fire for 5 down into here. Plus the 10 that they got, so 15. Okay. Sorry about that, but I wanted to play that and then I forgot about it, so I've just gone back to it. So we're now correct. So we're still firing for 15 into here, which is a lot better for the Germans than 24. So the MG08 again is here for 8, plus 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13, plus 9 it is safe. And the Hauptmann is in there for 7 and 3 is 10, plus 7 and is safe as well. And we have a German sniper at B5. And B5 is here. It's just outside of the radius to pick up any of the French. Okay, so that's the French second order done, and they cannot do anything else, and they will get 2 new cards. Right, so we're over to the Germans, and they have a move or a recover. So they're simply going to do a recover. They'll remove these suppression markers. And then we'll try and rally up our Fusilier, who was there for 10. And he's back with a vengeance. And that's all that they can do. And they will get 3 new cards. And I will try and do things properly in future. Okay, so they do again have another hidden unit. defender only action. Okay, so I'll leave that so I hopefully don't forget. Back to the French. And we have a recover, 3 fires, 4 fires, and an artillery request. We're just not getting anything to move. We've had the one offensive and that's it. So, okay, we're back to artillery again. And we shall try and drop our artillery back in here. We've been relatively lucky so far. So again, we have 9 down into there. 4 4s are 16, so it's successful. And it is going to go direction 2, then direction 4. So again, we go direction 2, and then we go direction 4. And now we're going to hit all these empties. But we're actually going to pick up these 3 here. And we end up with a French sniper out of that as well. And that's at N10, which does nothing. Okay. So we're landing here for 8. And we're seeing if we're going to get any trouble there. So we need a 10 or more for shell holes in those areas. And we fail. So then we do for the occupied hexes, and again we have 8 plus 10 is 18 and an event. Okay, so let's put that up there. The event is sappers. You may place or remove a wire mark in a hex that is both free of enemy and adjacent to a friendly good order unit. So we're going to remove this wire. It is adjacent to this good order unit. Okay, so now we've hit here for 18. So this foxholes is destroyed and becomes shell holes. We also end up with shell holes in here, and we also end up with shell holes in here. Now, in the long run, doesn't really matter. These guys here already had 1 cover. They still maintain 1 cover. But this has gone down from 3 cover now down to 1. So let's do the hits. And we'll do the hits up here first. So again, we have this guy now for 8 plus 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. Do they have anything to help? And they do not. So 11 on the machine gun team plus 8 is 19, and he is fine. Wow. And we have a German event, which is sappers. You may place or remove a wire marker in a hex that is both free of enemy formations and adjacent to a friendly good order unit. So let's on objective 2. And that means if the Germans move into there, they can't go any further. They can't form a fire group. They can't use any weapons in there. And it means that we can try and take them out a little bit easier. Okay, so this guy is fine. The Hauptmann is in here for 9. Plus 6 is 15. And he is broken. This guy here is in here for 8 plus 1 is 9. Plus 10 and is fine. And again, this guy is in here for 9. Plus 6 is 15 and he is broken as well. So lots better artillery that time. So now for the French, we can use a fire. Let's do this one. So a second order to fire. We're going to fire with Lieutenant Grenier. We can form a fire group now, and we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 into here. So we have 12. And we're going to add the elan to it to give it 14. And then 8 gives us 22. So we're trying the same sort of thing we did last time, but this time the Germans can't do anything about it. They have nothing to help. So we have 22 into here. The Fusilier with the machine gun is in here now for 8 plus 1 is 9. Plus 7 is 16, and we have a German event, which is detachment. You may add a team to a platoon carrying a weapon and stacked with a leader. The weapon is now carried by the team. So we're going to do that. Seeing as we could end up losing, do I want to do that? Because if I lose the Hauptmann, this guy will remain cohesive because he has a weapon. But if I do, this guy's going to come under fire as well. I think I've got to. So he's going to go in there because he's stacked with the leader. It doesn't say a good order leader or anything else. Machine gun goes over to him, and this guy is hit and broken, which means he couldn't use the weapon anyway. This guy is now in here, so he's still under the same fire order, so he gets shot at, and he's in there for 10. Plus 6, not enough. So again, he is broken. And can't use the machine gun. And then we have the Hauptmann in there for 10. Plus 6, and he is kaput. So Hauptmann Waldau becomes a casualty, and that costs 3 VP. 1, 2, 3. And these guys are now in a bucket of hurt. Okay, so we've done fire for 1. That was an add. And we have 1 more order we can give, but we only have a recover and 2 fires, which we basically can't use. So the French turn is over. All the French troops are still in cohesion, and we're back to the Germans, who have a command confusion, a move, advance, and an offensive. Right. Okay. So this guy, this guy has a move of 1. He has a move of 1. I don't have a recover. Okay, let's try something a little bit cheeky then. We're going to do an advance for the first order, and I'm going to advance this guy to the rear, which puts him down here in the quarry, in the shell holes for the time being, and out of line of sight of anything, and nobody can hit him other than artillery. That's done. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try a what? What I'm thinking of doing is, again, as silly as it may sound, is a move with this guy. Now he can move 1, which means I can move him to here. If he survives, he's on a road, he can then get a free move up into the buildings here. He's still going to end up suppressed, but he goes from 1 cover to 3 cover if he survives. And then we can look at maybe moving up into here, he would have 2 cover at least, even though he'd have a minus on everything. So let's see how we go. Okay, so we're going to look at the move. Can he survive? And I've got to go onto the road, which is the pain in the bum bit, because that's the only way he's going to get the free move up into here. So goes 1 to there. The French can then shoot at him if they wish. And they wish. Yep. So they are going to opportunity fire. And the trouble is they're going to bring 12 firepower down onto here. Straight up. Which is our 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 down to here. Plus 6 is 18. So his chances of survival aren't real good, but they were even worse. Well, they weren't real flash here either. So we have 18 firepower to there. He's in there for 8 now with nothing to help. Plus 6 and he's gone. So like I said, it was a bit of a forlorn hope, but I was just trying to get him into some form of cover. And that's 2 more VP off for the Germans. They're down to 2 VP. And that's the end of their turn. They get 2 new cards. No defender only stuff on them, and we would be back to the French, and we will call the first video there. So as I said, I've played this a couple of times and it can go swingingly either way, and at the moment it's going very much the French way, between the artillery and the machine gun fire being able to knock Germans out. So take care, be good, I'll catch you next time.